What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be taking a CD in my collection and making a poster out of it. A few years ago I did a series of posters and it was kind of a limited series, but it was very similar to art and advertising style that you would see like on classical music CDs, like especially from the 80s and 90s and everything. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to go with something that route, and hopefully whatever the randomizer picks, it will work for that style, but it'll be kind of a challenge to do it. Before we find out what album I'll be designing for today, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and also click the bell for notifications to be notified of all new content. Now let's head over to the randomizer. All right, so I got the collection copied onto the clipboard. Let's go ahead and paste and pick a random item. Hits. Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is probably Phil Collins, because I think that's the only one that's actually called Hits. All right, so I went through the list and verified, and it is the only CD in my collection that is actually called Hits. So the design and the style that we're going for, it's very interesting, actually. It's going to be very nature driven, because a lot of those classical music CDs from the 80s, 90s and things like that, they typically had flowers on it, or like a nice like nature, like a natural setting or something like that. Really nice serif typography and some really minimal type of effects and everything like that. So I'm just going to kind of wing it as I go, and hopefully Phil Collins, hopefully it works well with it. There are 16 songs on this hits collection, but yeah, let's just go for it. All right, so I've got my artboard all set up and everything. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together an overall structure of how I want everything to be laid out. And I decided to go with an 18 by 27 so that I can utilize more of the space for the art piece, whatever that ends up being. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of draw a space right here. So, and plus I want this to have a lot of margin, yeah, we want it to be very classy looking. So probably 1.5 inch margin or something like that, maybe even a 2 inch. We'll just kind of see what looks best. All right, so I'm going to anchor this to this point, and let's do this right here. Go all the way over and then back it off by 2. That's going to give us our 2 inch margin all the way around. So it's really 4 inches. 4 inches horizontal and vertical. So for the image, we'll probably go something like 14 by 16. That way we can, it gives us a little bit more flexibility for what we're doing. Probably going to be like a flower, or maybe a tree, or maybe even a waterfall or something like that, just depending on what we decide to go with. As far as the color palette goes, I'll just go ahead and use the colors that are on the cover right here. The two primary colors that you're seeing are like orange and blue. So I'll probably just go with something like that. So first, because of the orange and blue, I'll probably do like maybe a sunset picture or something like that. Okay, so let's do like a nice, kind of a darker orange, not too saturated. And then for the blue, want something that'll contrast really nicely. I actually do like that one. It's kind of like a darker cornflower blue, but we're gonna turn up the saturation just a little bit. All right, so that looks good. And for this, I will probably, I may actually just put this dead center, or no, I don't think so. I like the evenness of that margin going all the way around. So really the focal point of the poster is probably just going to be the image. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this portion of the video, play around with some type, and I'll come back whenever I feel like I need to come back. All right, so we have the basic layout and the basic structure and everything of how this is going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab everything here, copy it, and move into Photoshop, and we will actually do all of our effects and finishing up everything in there. Okay, so as you've seen me do before, I went ahead and pasted everything into here. I went ahead and pasted it all as one thing, even though I'm going to separate everything, but I want to get this pasted so I know exactly where everything lines up. So let's go ahead and grab everything individually. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. Okay, so I have everything separated, so I'll go ahead and go back to our first layer, delete that. So now everything is in here and everything is now separated into individual elements. And the reason that we do that is to make sure that we can control the effects of each item individually. So especially when it comes to making it look a little bit older, you know, you want to make sure that it looks like the ink and the and all of the elements and everything are bleeding into the paper. So let's go ahead and grab some paper. So I'm going to go in here. I've got my own design resources right here, and I typically will use for something like this. It's been a while since I've done this particular design, but I'll probably use something like this cold pressed Arctic. This is a really nice one. So let's drop this into here. And we'll just need to do some expanding right here because this is, you know, meant to be on a much smaller scale. So let's go ahead and expand this up. And just about every time that I expand something like that, I'll usually do some kind of effects later on to kind of cover up any pixelation that may happen. Okay, but we are looking good right here, just a nice little, you know, paper background. However, you know, if you notice, you know, these effects and everything, oh, sorry, not the effects, these elements right here are just sitting on top of the paper. They're not actually blending into the paper. So let's go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to go ahead and name these layers like a good designer. All right, there we go. And let's also do this. I'm going to, that's fine. That's all right. As long as they're named, it's fine. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. The first thing I'm going to do is put a layer on top. I'm just going to go ahead and put a grain layer on here. And the reason why is because that's going to help everything below it bleed into our paper background. So about 50. Just go 50 all around. And I will do a vignette. That's something that you would, you know, definitely see on something like this. Just kind of bring it in. It may even, you know, it's probably the most obvious vignette I've done, at least on this channel. So that's going to be a little bit too much. Maybe something like, probably just end up going with overlay. There we go. All right. So as you can see, we're starting to see, you know, some of those effects and everything showing through. However, what we need to do next is I'm actually going to go ahead and blend if these right here and just kind of separate this one out. You only need a little bit, maybe just one. Actually, I don't even know if I'm going to do that. So let's just do this. Let's just use Gaussian blur. I think it's just because that background is a little bit too harsh. So what we're going to do, just by doing the Gaussian blur right here, just maybe like a 3 on text this size, just by doing that, it's already becoming, you know, just kind of bleeding into that background right there, and already looking nice and authentic. Now let's see what happens if when we do our blend if. Okay, it's still just too harsh. Okay, sometimes it works well, sometimes not. But for something like this, you know, you can probably go like with this layer instead of the underlying layer. So I'll probably go to something about maybe 100, something like that. And there's without, and then there's with. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, it's blending a little bit with the background, but not too much. And we'll go ahead and collapse the effects on there. Let's go up to hits, do our Gaussian blur. Looks like 3 is going to be just fine, especially with that nice dark blue that we've got there. So we'll just repeat the process, probably go down to the same number, but we'll see what happens. Okay, that's looking good. We can actually go a little bit further because of the darkness there. That's looking good, probably like around 30. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with our release date. Our Gaussian blur will probably go down to about a 2 for this. Yeah, that's a lot better. And since it's the same blue, we'll probably go down to around a 20, something like that. Oh, and also just, sorry, I forgot to mention it earlier. If you're on a Mac, I hope you are, to separate both of these, because like you've got the one on the left and the one on the right, you want to hold down your Option key and grab it, and then you can slide just that one over. If you grab both of them, it's gonna blend it way too much. So, but yeah, just make sure that you hold down Option, and I guess maybe on Windows it may be Alt, I think. I'm sorry if it's not. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing with our border right up here. So our photo frame, go up to Gaussian blur. 2 is just fine on that. And then we'll go in here and do this. Looking good. All right. So all of our elements are blurred and kind of bled into the paper exactly where they need to be. So now I'm going to go out and actually look for an image to put in this frame right here. All right, so I'm going to look for an orange sunset. Hopefully, I'm going to try to. Hopefully, I can find something that has, you know, like a good balance of orange and blue. This one actually does have a good balance of that, so let's check that out. We'll just kind of use that as our starting point. Typically, with these types of posters or artwork, you would see like a really beautifully shot item, you know, whatever it is, you know, if it's a sunset or a flower or a tree, a waterfall, whatever it is. This is really nice right here. This is nice. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end up going with this one. All right, so let's open this, bring it into our Photoshop document. I'm gonna go to our photo holder, go directly above that, and then hit paste. And now I'm gonna do both of these and mask that to that layer. And as you can see, we're already picking up the effects of that grain that's laying on top of there. So really nice, classically shot image right there, and that we're putting into this frame. Looking good, and we'll just kind of move it over here. I may expand it just a little bit larger. There we go, that's looking good. So we can still see, we can clearly see that body of water there. Nothing at all against this photographer, but I think that I may go in and see if I can just kind of brighten some of those areas a little bit. I'm gonna play around with the curves. And let's mask it just to that layer. Just a touch. Still want it to have the, you know, that really beautiful contrast that it has, but we don't want to blow out anything either. Okay, looking good there. And then just to kind of mute the extreme whites and the extreme blacks, we'll probably just go in here and add a gradient map on top that affects only that image. Bring this down to about a 90. Bring the black up to about a 10. And then usually luminosity does a pretty good job. So as you can see, what it's doing is it's creating a little bit more of an evenness. You know, like this is without that layer, and then this is with it. Most of the time, luminosity does a really good job with it, but I always like to cycle through the blending modes just to see what other options we may have there. That's increasing the contrast a little bit more in the midtones. Okay, lighter color. No, okay. Lighter color is taking away some of the colors. Screen usually screen does a good job, but not when the colors are this saturated. All right, so we'll just go to luminosity. We'll just keep it like that. Okay. So for the most part, we are done. I would like to see if maybe we can do. Let's see here. Maybe just kind of add like a final layer of film grain on top of it. That may make the overall poster itself look a little bit more aged. You know, that's kind of the aesthetic that we're going for here. So we'll just rotate this, And as you can see, it almost takes up the whole space, so we'll just enlarge it a little bit more, not too much. We don't want any pixelation going on. I'm going to put this underneath the grain layer, so that way our vignette is always on top. And then Lighten will probably do a really good job of just kind of making it look a little bit more aged, although Screen is doing an even better job, I think. So, although we really are getting a lot of pixelation there. Let's see. I'd like it to be a little bit more subtle if possible. Or of course we could always mask out that area. In fact, I will do that just to show you how it's done. So let's do that. Let's go up to Lighten. Okay, difference overall is looking good. Okay, I think difference will be a good one to do here. So what I'm gonna do here is we're just gonna mask out that the area where the image is right here. So just kind of draw over the image and then apply a mask on there. So actually, sorry, I forgot to inverse my selection. There we go. So it's applied everywhere except for the image itself. So that's looking a lot better. Yeah, so overall, the poster looks nice and aged. And I'm also going to go in here. I forgot to do this earlier. Need to add a Gaussian blur on the photo frame. Or I'm sorry, on the photo holder itself, not the frame. Probably around like a 5, something like that. Sometimes you could even go with like a 10, but that's obviously going to show a little bit more of that border. So we want it to be nice and soft. Okay, I think we'll just go with 3 right there. So that way the image border itself also looks like it's bleeding into the paper. So here we go. Phil Collins hits a nice improvised poster put together in a classical style for this album or collection right here, collection of hits. So hope you enjoyed something using Illustrator and or Photoshop. If you did, please let me know what that was down in the comments. I love reading stuff like that. All right, well, thanks a lot for watching me make that poster. That was fun. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and also click the bell for notifications to be notified of all new content, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.